All right, guys, welcome back to Revamp, and we're back for another episode on the Datsun. Now, I don't know if you can see over here, we do have the engine. We've got some gearboxes, and yeah, if you haven't seen the first episode where we just go over the car, what it came with, I'll put a link up here in the corner. But yeah, so I know at least one person has guessed an RB30 in the comments of the last video. Yes, we are putting an RB30 in it for now. Later on, we do have an RB25 Neo that we may do a 25-30 build out of later. But for now, the RB30 did run in a Datsun, the 262-seater, like I was saying. A couple of things we're going to change on it, but I'm going to run through those in a minute because I'll just show you where a gearbox conversion can kind of go wrong, and tell you why a gearbox conversion can go wrong in these ways. We've got some engine conversion parts. They're actually from Castlemaine Rod Shop, so I guess we'll see if they fit or not. But they're to replace the fabricated engine mount brackets and transmission adaptation that was in the donor car that all this came out of. So let's get into the video and we'll have a look firstly at the RB30 and the gearbox it came with, and then we'll have a look at the gearbox we're going to put on it. Right, so engine-wise, it's not a whole lot to talk about really. Like, it's an RB30, believe it's out of probably a Nissan Skyline. It's got the rear drop sump. So yeah, it's naturally aspirated, stock computer. The wiring harness has been modified because it did come out of the Datsun 260Z. So, you know, not a whole great deal to talk about here. Like I was saying, the engine mount brackets that were made up, they were broken. Well, one was broken, one was just had it, and they were to adapt the standard Datsun engine mount to the RB30. So where things get a bit iffy is this is the gearbox that came with the RB30. Now, you can see the sandwich plate here. It's got some rather nasty notching, big sections cut out of it. I do believe this is a Datsun sandwich plate that has been chopped and modified to fit the back of the RB30. Similar kind of thing with this gearbox. Doesn't actually fit the back of the RB30. Close, but doesn't. So first thing is, if we come in here, we notice these holes are very drastically elongated or opened up. You can see some more down here, some little bit more over here, a bit here, and there's something going on weird here as well. The other thing we might notice is there's not a lot of dowel location going on here. That is basically because the dowels don't line up. There is one dowel that appeared to line up, and I think, oh, that might be why that's a bit opened up. Lined up over here. The top dowel here, missing. The other one for the other side here. I believe there's possibly 4 dowels on the back of an RB, and this was using 1. So not really ideal when you're trying to get the alignment of the input shaft and the crankshaft all aligned together. So consequently, we had the chopped up sandwich plate to go with it to try to get all these things to align. So you can see on the back of the engine, things don't look that great. You can see we've got the one dowel pin here, and then there's meant to be one up the top here. I'm not sure where the others are supposed to be. I've been told that there's 4 dowel pins. I'm not sure where they're supposed to go. But you can also see down here, this shiny part on the bottom of the rear main seal carrier where the flywheel has been hitting. That's yeah, that's not ideal, and it probably leads me to believe that the flywheel that was attached to the back of the engine could have been the Datsun one and not an RB31. All right, so we've established that the Datsun gearbox has got some issues, and for me, that's enough to not want to use it with this project. And if we ever try to go with some more power, then, is the Datsun going to be up to the task? So it's out with the Datsun box, the modified Datsun box, and we've gone with a gearbox that is designed to go behind the RB. Now, we're not entirely sure about the origin of this gearbox, but some of the markings on the side here that I've sort of looked up, probably out of a GDST R32, by the fact it's got the ribbing on the bell housing and the numbers on the side of the box here. So to go with that, we do have this Castlemaine Rod Shop conversion kit, you could call it, conversion parts, more like it. So we've got some engine mount brackets that I'll show you in a bit, already fitted to the engine. And it comes with this cross-member system to fit this gearbox to the underside of the Datsun. So look, I've never fitted one of these before. Graham has his, Graham's a little reserved about whether it's up to the job or not. We'll see. But we're about to try and test fit this engine and box in the car and bring you guys along with us. Well, here we go. Getting the engine in. Probably struggled a little bit, mostly because of the way we had our crane straps set up. Then decided to remove some of the bracketry for some of the old electrical stuff, which we'll remove later. Then second time around, managed to get it in. And went down on the engine mounts fairly nicely. You can see there we haven't got a whole lot of load on the crane anymore. The engine is sitting in. It's pretty tight at the back here with the bonnet latch. Was quite tight coming in with the manifold and that, but as it sat down, it was okay. You can see the lifting hook hits on the aircon, but generally seems to be fitting quite well from the top. We'll have a look underneath in a second and have a look how well it's fitting. Just using a couple of bolts to hold the gearbox in there for now. And then Graham's using a strap around the back of the gearbox, a couple of bits of timber, just to hold the back of it up in the tunnel. All right, guys, so you saw that wasn't too difficult to get that gearbox in. It is the smaller Nissan rear-wheel drive gearbox. And you can see we've just got a strap and a piece of timber up through the tunnel holding it. I like it. It's not particularly at the correct position or angle, but it's in the rough location, and it's even fitting around the original transmission mounts, which we may or may not try to make something from those original transmission mounts, just so we don't cut up the tunnel of the car. But yeah, at the moment, just a gearbox sitting in there. I'll take you around and show you the engine. All right, so you can see the gearbox down there. As you can see, we've got no flywheel or anything in there. And yeah, we've got plenty of tunnel clearance, that's for sure. This engine mount isn't quite sitting down where it should do, but you know, like I said, these are an old set of engine mounts, so once we decide that this system's going to work for us, we can go through and basically order new mounts. This side's sitting pretty good. Yeah, you can see down the gearbox there's plenty of room for starter motor, etc. And we've got good clearance for brakes. Obviously, where we're going to have to put some sort of hydraulics for the clutch. So yeah, it's all sitting in well. The one area that we do have some concern is the sump hitting the steering rack. Now, we're not quite sure what this sump's out of because it seems to have quite a large angle on it, and it is dented in, but I really don't think that any of the RB mountings that I can think of was ever on this kind of angle. So we're probably going to have a look at, is this some sort of modified sump that they put in here, or what's the story? So I've got these extractors. I've had some modification on the bottom. These are the ones that did come with the engine. I have no idea who made. Oh, here we go. They've got Lukey little plate on there. There's got a part number in that. So they're a set of Lukey extractors that have been modified, obviously, with the last engine fitment. So we'll spear them in and see how good they don't fit. Because I'm thinking that they don't fit very good. Thinking they're pretty good at not fitting. What do you think, Graham? I'm thinking they're doing really well at not fitting. Look, to be honest, this back section here with this merge and all this is, look, I know Graham's having heart attacks over the welding on this, but I think what we're probably going to do is we may just lop it off here. We'll keep the O2 sensor in the right position for, the proper tuning with the factory computer and all that. I'm thinking, what do you reckon, Graham? Probably right here where they've welded onto it. And we'll chop that off. Graham either put some sort of flange there or an extension piece and redo all this. I don't know. Would you even describe it as bird poo, Graham? Like, there's some not great welding going on here. Like, I mean, you can see it's still got all the strings and everything going on. So I think instead of stuffing around trying to fit that in there, we'll just lop them off here and, yeah, we'll build something custom for it from there on. Like I say, it could end up with a 25 head yet. So, yeah, in which case we wouldn't even bother using these. We'll use the 25 headers. But, yeah, so that's about as far as we get with the exhaust at the moment. Chop it. So you can see after I chopped the end of the extractors off, you can see they fit in. Not too bad. Graham will obviously make up a new section for the bottom. But now these extractors will do the job. But where the big changes are underneath. So let's slide underneath and have a look. All right, so you can see the engine has no sump on it now. That was because we couldn't get the engine to sit down properly at the front with the sump that was on it. And you'll see it's very tight clearance to the steering rack. You can also see that modified pickup there. We're kind of not really too happy with it. You can sort of see where it's been modified there and closed over. Yeah, we've actually spoken to a couple of sump places. We've spoken to Castle Main Rod Shop as to what sump they recommend with their engine mount brackets. But it looks like we may be lifting those engine mount brackets up a little to get a little more sump clearance, and also to get the engine on the right angle, which I'll show you in a minute. I'm not sure how well it will show up on camera, but the rocker cover is angled very much to the right-hand side of the car, the driver's side. And, yeah, from what I've been told, the rocker cover on RB is meant to sit flat. So we will be checking another car with an RB30 mounted in it, just to make sure. But at this stage, it looks like this driver's side mount has to come up, but that will make our clearance to the sump down there smaller. So we'll obviously have to raise the left-hand mount as well. Now, clearly that could cause issues with the bonnet clearance, but they do run quite a large bulge in the bonnet. But yeah, so that's about where we're at. So the sump for the RB engine. Part of the reason it's off is that it doesn't fit. Another part of the reason it's off is that we discovered it's actually a hybrid sump. Now, by hybrid sump, I mean it's half RB and it's actually half the L Series Datsun. Well, we think it's half the L Series Datsun. We can see along here, there's a weld line. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a weld line all the way around it. It's actually even got some sort of like putty stuff on the inside to make sure it seals. Yeah, not really to my standard at all. You know, if it was done properly, sure, it could have worked. If the shape of the sump on the bottom here suited the project, and here where the steering rack is suited the project, then yeah, sure, could have worked. So, comes down to needing a new sump. Now, under some research, we're having trouble finding a rear drop sump for an RB. Now, there is a Nissan Patrol sump, but it's very deep at the back, not really suited for what we need. Other than that, we haven't been able to find a sump which will fit as a rear drop for an RB that will suit this project. Now, that means that it's likely going to be an expensive custom-made sump. We have spoken to a couple of companies that can do that. But, you know, if any of you guys know of a rear drop RB sump, it's got a drop from probably about halfway along the sump. Let us know in the comments. Look us up on Facebook, Next Gen Revamp at Facebook. Yeah, let us know. You might know what fits. You might have one that fits. Yeah, so we're looking for a rear drop sump to fit an RB30, or I believe RB25 and 20s also fit. So that's where we're at with the sump. So guys, that's the engine for the Datsun project. RB30, realistically pretty predictable. I know we did put up a couple of photos, just having a bit of fun, of a high-rise intake manifold and 4-barrel throttle body off a V8 engine that we had here. But like I say, that's just a bit of fun. It is an RB, like a few of you guessed. So the engine sort of fits. We've got work to do with the engine mounts to get the engine fitting straight. We've got work to do with the transmission mount. And then from there, we can go with tail shafts, diffs, radiators, you know, all that good extra interesting stuff to do with the conversion. So if you've got information about a sump, like I said before, let us know in the comments or look us up on Facebook. Subscribe to the channel, give us a like, let us know what you think about the project as well. We're really keen to know. And I'll catch up with you next time on Next Gen Revamp.